What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Keon. I'm coming through with another video, and in this video I'll be going over the unveiling of the new 2025 Corvette ZR1. Now before we get to the video, I'm gonna give you some numbers that has been released from Chevy themselves, and it's been confirmed that the new Corvette ZR1 will have a twin turbo 5.5 liter flat plane crank V8 producing 1,064 horsepower and 826 pound-feet of torque, which is over 300 horsepower more than the last generation ZR1. And it's the fastest Corvette ever produced and the most powerful engine that Chevy has created. The new ZR1 will top out with speeds over 215 miles per hour. It can go the quarter mile in less than 10 seconds. You'll have an option of the ZTK track patches that's more track focused, including the large wing, the carbon fiber wheels, and the carbon fiber body kit. Now with that being said, let's get to the video.
The power is just unrelenting and almost indescribable.
That front scoop. God.
Hi, I'm Brad Frowns from Chevrolet Marketing, and today I'm here with Josh Holder on the introduction of the all-new Corvette ZR1. Josh, we understand the team's been super excited about this, but before we dive into ZR1, can we just talk a little bit about the journey that we've been on and what Corvette has meant over the last couple of years leading up to this point?
We planned the ZR1 from the beginning.
Also, I'll sped up the video just a little bit, but as you can see, the first looks of it, it is crazy. It looks similar, of course it looks similar to the Z06, but I see the differences. It's gonna be the high wing, which is crazy. The front scoop looks like something similar to the Ferrari 488 Pista. I'm pretty sure they took some similarities from that design. And looked like on the back, the window was split. We'd have the louvers coming down and also in the middle. So those really the only two differences you can see, or of course the ZR1 badge on the side. So that's how you'll be able to differentiate from the Z06 and the ZR1.
So with the Stingray, followed by the track-ready Z06, followed by the all-weather capability of the E-Ray, the hardware that goes in each of those cars was planned from the beginning, which is why the LT7 evolved from the LT6. It's still got that flat plane crank, high revving magic, but this time the equipped turbochargers really bring the power to these unbelievable levels.
And you know, when you sit and you look at the car, it just looks fast, right? Like every Corvette. How important is it to also keep the design cues that have made this generation of Corvette so special?
Well, keeping the foundation lets us keep the fantastic mid-engine proportions. The cues on the ZR1 expand upon its performance. So everything you see on the outside of the ZR1 has some functional purpose, and many of them have more than one functional purpose. The intercooler heat exchanger in the hood, not only does it cool the charge air, but it also helps create front downforce.
Let's talk about the numbers. Can you give us a rundown on what ZR1's bringing to the table here?
Brad, the numbers are incredible. 1,064 horsepower, more than 800 foot-pounds of torque from 3,000 RPM to 6,500 RPM, more than 1,000 pounds of downforce at top speed, and a quarter mile time well under 10 seconds. It's going to be the fastest Corvette that we've ever done.
Okay, all right, well that's...
So even with the twin turbos, the torque come in early. It's crazy, and a lot of it, most of it come in early, around, you said around 3,000 RPM. That is crazy. It's going to be a torque monster.
That's an important one here. Let's just take a step back. Fastest Corvette ever. Are you confirming 212 plus today?
Significantly faster than 212 miles an hour. It's absolutely incredible.
And when you start to think about the acceleration, how does that feel?
It's really mind-blowing. The first time you get in the car, you get this experience that's like, oh my God, what did I just feel? But it doesn't go away. It never disappoints. You never get used to this kind of power. It's always special. It's always enjoyable. So the ZR1 represents the first ever factory turbocharged Corvette. When you think about turbochargers, some might say, hey, there's going to be some lag. Yeah. You know, it takes a little bit of time to spool up. What are some of the things that you all did as a team to mitigate that? That's a great question, Brad. And these turbochargers are massive, 76 millimeter compressors. So in the design of the turbocharger, we phase the exhaust cams in the engine to keep turbo speed as high as possible. We change ignition timing, throttle position, and we have a special wastegate that's electronically controlled. So we can use those features to keep turbo speeds as high as possible. So when you're exercising the ZR1 on the twisty roads, your favorite place to drive, or even on the track, that massive power and torque is always available. It's incredible.
Yeah. Well, Josh, thanks so much for the time today. Really appreciate it. I think everyone's going to be extremely excited about what the 2025 Corvette ZR1 has to offer. You guys really rocked it. Thanks for giving us a vehicle like this.
Thank you, Brad. We can't wait to share it with the world.
Amazing. That color is nice too. I wonder what the new color options they'll have for it. So the other channels have been reacting to it as well. I know one channel I was watching, they went in depth. I'm tripping. Bear with me, I'm working with this tablet. Let me see.
Do you remember the old Corvette?
That's the thing. How do you get invited to these events? Like how? That's what I want to get to the point. That's where I want to get with my channel. I want to get to the point where I can be able to go and review the car, take a first look of the car. When they unveil it, be one of the first ones to, you know, sit in it, talk about the specs, talk about the details. So yeah, definitely, if your first time watching this channel, y'all like and subscribe. You know, help me get to that goal. I don't want much. All right, but let's get to the video. Speed it up.
Do you remember the old Corvette C6 Z06? That 7-litre LS7 engine that revved and revved, 505 horsepower, proper thumb in the eye to European sports cars of the time. So fast and so intense. I only mention it because I've been trying to get my head around this new car, the C8 ZR1, because it has to get more than an entire LS7 engine's power output through each 345 section tyre. Yep, there were rumours this thing was going to be a hybrid and share its huge power output between 4 wheels, but no. 5.5 litre, flat plane crank, twin turbocharged V8, 1,064 horsepower, 828 foot-pounds of torque, and just rear-wheel drive. There is so much more to say about this car, but that's a pretty good place to start, isn't it?
And I'm not surprised that Chevy was able to do something like this because their engineering team is really, 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 really good. Like when I drive the Camaros or the new Corvette, you could tell those cars were engineered well. They over-engineer the car, so I'm not surprised that Chevy can be able to pull something like this off.
So here it is, the ZR1 or ZR1, whatever you prefer, and you didn't misunderstand. I said 1,064 brake horsepower. It's the first ever turbocharged Corvette, but thanks to the flat plane crank configuration, it revs to 8,000 RPM with maximum power at 7,000 RPM. It's not exactly peaky though, and produces over 800 foot-pounds of torque from 3 to 6,500 revs. I guess I could have said more power and torque per driven wheel than an entire GT3 RS 4-litre flat 6 too. So it's a regular production Corvette that should cost under $200,000 with an engine to shade LaFerrari or P1 or Veyron or 918 Spider, or pretty much anything with a combustion engine and rear drive, save for true outliers from Koenigsegg or Hennessy. By any measure, it is utterly outrageous.
Chevy has provided me with some fun fast facts, they call them, about this car, and I'm going to run through a few because they really do speak of this car's amazing performance potential. Okay, so for example, all 4 test drivers on their first lap at the Nürburgring achieved over 200 miles an hour. The first ever measured quarter mile for this car was under 10 seconds. The first time they took it to the Milford Proving Ground, it exceeded the old ZR1's top speed, which was 212 miles an hour. It produces 545 kilos of downforce with the ZTK package. That's a lot more than a 992 GT3, although not really close to that monster, the GT3 RS. What else? Well, the exhaust tips provide 37 pounds of thrust because, of course, they do. The turbos, the impellers get to 2/3 the temperature of the Space Shuttle on re-entry. The tips of the turbos get to 1.7 times the speed of sound. This car has extraordinary numbers attached to it, massive potential, but what's behind that? What is this thing actually all about?
As you can see, the car comes as either convertible or coupe, which retains the targa roof arrangement of lesser Corvettes. Each body style is available in standard form or with the more extreme ZTK package, which consists of a much more aggressive high downforce setup, plus stiffer springs and a bespoke tune for the magnetic ride control. Cars equipped with ZTK also get Michelin Cup 2R tyres. Even so, the ZR1 doesn't build on the already sharp, naturally aspirated Z06 with an even tighter track focus, but instead goes the other way. The ride is said to be a bit more comfortable and the on-limit behaviour slightly more forgiving. With all that power, they didn't need or want to make a car right on the edge.
The sound is muffled.
At 1,665 kilos drive for the coupe and 1,705 for the convertible, the ZR1 is around 75 kilos heavier than the Z06. You can trim that with carbon fibre wheels and other lightweight options too.
But whichever version you go for, the heart of this ZR1 is this incredible new LT7 engine. I'm joined here by Jordan Lee, who's going to give us the full lowdown. He is Chief Engineer of the small block V8 engine family, which is a fantastic job title, I have to say.
Best job ever.
So get geeky, tell me all the decisions made, give us the full lowdown on the LT7.
All right. Well, it's our latest and greatest, and we actually think this is one of our best engines ever. It's the most powerful production V8 engine ever put in a sports car, most powerful production V8 engine ever made in America. We had a lot of lofty goals early on when we designed and developed the engine, and we wanted a ton of horsepower for the C8 ZR1. The Gemini, small block Gemini LT7 engine is actually a brother engine to the LT6, which is in the Z06, which you probably know pretty well.
Yep.
All new architecture. It's got a dry sump loop system, dedicated scavenge pump. This one has a 7-base scavenge pump system and a high pressure oil pump, so it's actually 8 stages. Purpose built. It's almost like a race engine for a car. The loop system performance under really rigorous track conditions is just phenomenal. The engine is very solid and robust, extremely durable, and makes a ton of power. So we focused intently on making a lot of power. Has 2 of the biggest turbochargers ever on a gasoline engine. We went with the mono scroll so we can get the maximum power out of the engine. And we actually started with our goals to be 850 horsepower originally. But when we built the first engines and had them on the dyno, and we were running them on the dyno with the wastegates fully open, we were making over 800 horsepower at that point. And we all knew, oh my God, this thing's going to make a ton of power. So we worked closely with Taj. We didn't want to make sure we didn't overpower the car. And we started iterating and increasing the power levels. So 850 became 900, then 900 became 1,000. And then when we did the power rating, we went full bore to get as much power as we could. And we ended up with 1,064 horsepower.
Okay, so tell us about the boost pressure and also the characteristics of the engine, because it's a pretty high specific output, but you were saying to me earlier that the actual response is very much like an actually aspirated engine, just really enhanced.
There is some unique technical features that allow us to do that. The big turbos can result in turbo lag, but there's an anti-turbo lag strategy that we use in calibration with the software that's kind of like a miracle to me. It keeps the turbo spooled up, so anytime you tip in the throttle, it's extremely responsive. And if you didn't hear that little turbo whistle, which I think is very endearing to the character of the engine, you would be hard-pressed to know that it's a turbo engine. It's so responsive. The other thing that we did, I think that we're quite proud of, is we were able to come up with a large displacement. This is very different than the Europeans. They have small displacement boosted engines. We have 5.5 liters, and we wanted to make sure when we didn't have boost pressure that the 5.5 liter displacement was enough torque so the car still felt responsive. Corvettes have been known over all the generations to have a lot of torque response. So as soon as you...
Yeah, because when I had my Corvette, I just had a C7 Stingray 2017. It was, every time you step on the gas, it skirt the tires and want to just go. It handled well. But it's kind of, that car was kind of fast for the city. You know, you really need a highway to stretch out.
Tipping the throttle, even at low engine speed, you get a lot of performance.
Okay, so much more performance, bigger numbers. Tell us about what you've had to change internally just to keep this thing to hang together.
Well, the LT6 has a lot of similar components, the crankshaft in particular, which is a very robust steel crankshaft. But with a turbo engine, the boost pressures of the turbos, and in this particular engine we run up to 24 PSI peak boost, it results in a lot more cylinder pressure in the engine. So where the LT6 has an average peak cylinder pressure of 8.5 megapascals, this one is as high as 11. Okay. So that extra pressure is extra force on the piston, extra pressure on the rods. So the things that we had to harden or make stronger was the piston, and the connecting rod and the piston pin. But the crankshaft is pretty much the same. It is rebalanced to take into account the extra mass of the rotating reciprocating parts.
Okay, you are fresh from I think you call it a final Cal drive.
Yes.
So you've been out with some rivals and just figuring out if you've got the drivability right. Tell us about how happy you are with the end product.
Well, you're correct. We were on our final 100% ride, which is a 100% point just before production, and that was yesterday and the day before yesterday. We drove for 900 miles, and the engine performance and drive quality was stellar. In fact, for me, it was the best ride I have been on. It's the highest rated ride. We always find some little things here and there. We were hard pressed to find anything with powertrain in the engine.
Well, thank you, Jordan. I appreciate you talking us through it. Well, it sounds like it's ready, so do I get to drive it now?
Sadly, I don't, but I promise we will soon, and I cannot wait. It is a monster engine. In fact, GM's dyno kept failing or overheating under the stress of tuning the LT7, and at full noise it will consume 2 gallons of fuel per minute. So that's about 9 minutes of range. You'll get quite a long way though. Onto the aero concept. Chevy call the standard car the Top Speed King, and the ZTK package the Track King. It's in this configuration that the car produces 545 kilos of downforce, although that is way up at the top speed of over 215 miles an hour.
It'd be cool if the wing was active aero wing and be
The biggest change...
Or what I was saying, it would be cool if it was active aero to where, you know, you can make it slippery as well. Don't have so much downforce when you want to go fast.
For a Z06 with a Z07 package is the flow-through radiator that eliminates the frunk. but there are also additional cooling ducts for the rear brakes behind the side intakes, plus rear hatch cooling ducts, and the return of the split rear window for the Corvette is functional, providing additional venting for the engine bay.
So they're going
It's a
back to the heritage,
spectacular looking thing, and the carbon fibre front spoiler and dive planes are pretty extreme. I doubt the dive planes would pass European law, but sadly, right now there are no plans for right-hand drive ZR1s for us in the UK. Instead, they're focusing on the US and Middle East. With final chassis and durability testing at the ring, that seems a very big shame to us.
So what about the body and chassis of this car? Well, effectively, it's very similar to the Z06. So the body itself is 3.6 inches wider than the standard Stingray. There's a few trick bits that are slightly different from the Z06, but basically the same. Composite body. Now we have a carbon fibre roof for both the coupe and the convertible versions. The chassis beneath it is familiar C8, so that means aluminium, glued and riveted space frame chassis. We've got double wishbones at each corner, so front and rear. We have magnetic ride control 4.0 for this car. It's quite interesting what they've done with it, in fact. If you go for the ZTK package, that's this aero package, you get a more aggressive tune for the dampers and you get stiffer springs. But both cars are slightly less extreme than the Z06. They felt like with this level of performance, you didn't need to have it on a knife edge to still deliver monster track performance. So that's quite an interesting take on it. I think it's going to be more usable than a Z06 on the road, as well as obviously a lot faster on the track. Okay, wheel and tyre package. Very similar, same size as the Z06, so that means 275s at the front, 345 25 ZR21s at the rear. With the standard car, you get the P4S Michelin tyre, and that is exactly the same as on the Z06. But if you go for this package, you get the Cup 2R. I mean, it looks like a slick tyre, absolutely monster tyre package, and it is slightly different to account for the higher top speed. This thing does over 215 miles an hour, even in high downforce mode. So the construction is slightly different on the Cup 2R. Okay, wheels. Standard, you get alloy wheels. There's 4 different finishes, including the Edge Blue, which is new for ZR1. You can also get these optional carbon fibre wheels. We've seen carbon fibre wheels on the Corvette Z06 before, but these are different. They say they save 18 kilos or so of unsprung mass between all 4 corners and give you some free lap time. Well, it's not free, obviously. Let's say they're going to be $15,000 or thereabouts, but apparently the engineers are reporting it's quite a lot quicker around the handling track. Brakes, obviously very important for a car with 1,064 horsepower. This has a whole new brake package. Internally they call it the J58 brake package, and it's a different carbon construction for the discs. Calipers, 6 pots at the front, 4 pots at the rear, 400mm discs at the front, 390mm at the rear. But yeah, like I say, you can see the finish is slightly different. There are longer carbon strands in the construction of the disc, which are said to be much better for dissipating heat and for endurance too. And I think that's really key to this car. They've been through every detail. It isn't just about the power output. Speaking to the engineers, spending a bit of time around the car, it's clear they've tried to bring the level of control, exploitability, and how intuitive the car is to drive right up to that level. I think it's really interesting they've backed away slightly from the Z06's setup. It's slightly softer, slightly calmer, because they know you're going to get the lap time from all that power output anyway. So yeah, a thorough job all the way through the chassis.
There are so many little detail changes here. Even the bolt spacing for the rear wheels has increased to help contain all that LT7 power.
So they went
inside though, well, don't expect a revolution.
The handling.
Inside is familiar if you've been anywhere near a C8 Corvette. It's effectively exactly the same. The only difference I can spot is in the rearview mirror. You can see that big wing on this car. Obviously the car still comes in coupe form, which has a targa roof, which still fits in the back, or this, which is the convertible we're going to use.
I'm not gonna lie, this is gonna be a $300,000 car. Because they're saying that if MSRP is just under 200,000, I mean, dealers mark it up easily going to be 300,000, maybe even 350.
This car is a bit easier to see the interior and what I'm talking about, but effectively pretty nice. I like these things. The square steering wheel really upsets some people. Doesn't bother me at all, actually. Never really had an issue with it. No, but it's nice. C8 Corvette. Love it or loathe it. That's what you get inside. I guess more interesting are all the various driver modes, because there's quite a lot in these cars. Again, it'll be familiar if you're a Corvette owner, but I'm going to run through them anyway. So I have a mode controller down here. It's a rotary dial, effectively, almost like a BMW iDrive type thing. We start in weather mode, which we could probably just call British mode, couldn't we, with the summer that we've been having? It's been awful, but that's for rain, inclement weather. Then my mode, which is you can adjust various different parameters for what you actually like, and then you click up through Tour, self-explanatory, Sport, and Track. And effectively what you're changing is steering feel and steering weight, the magnetic ride control 4, so you're changing obviously the damper settings, engine response, engine sound, the brake feel too. This has an e-boost on the brake system, so they can adjust
That interior combination is fire. Cause I like a red interior, but I don't like too much red. Like when I did a ride along for the Z06 when it first came out at the Detroit Auto Show, the whole interior was just red and it was just too much. But they got it broken up with, you know, black. Even look at the seat. They got half the first part of the seat, the headrest is black, and then the middle is red. I'm pretty sure the seat part where you sit down is red. That looks really good. I like that. I like that a lot.
The feel of that depending on pedal pressure, etc. And you can get into the performance traction management as well, which we'll come back to in a second because there is one more mode, and that is the Z mode on the steering wheel. This is again like a favorite mode, but it's different from my mode in that you can also change the traction control settings. So you can get everything off with this button if that's how you want it, or you can delve into the performance traction management. Performance traction management effectively is a program that allows you to experience more of the car's dynamic repertoire as you get more experienced. I always struggle to get into these, but I'm going to give it a go. So I'm in track mode. I do a double click of the traction control button. And yes, I get into performance traction mode, which starts off with wet, then goes up to dry. ESC is still on at this stage. Then sport goes on. Then race 1, which is ESC off. So this is effectively just a traction control system. Race 2, which again allows even more slip, and then you can turn it off altogether. So there are many, many modes to get your head around. But if you're a Corvette owner and you've got a C8 or a Z06, you're going to understand that pretty simply. For the rest of us, it's always a bit of a mystery, but we'll get there eventually. There is so much to cover with this ZR1 that we can't really do it justice. We've only been here a couple of hours and we're still scratching the surface of all the engineering going on. But my conclusion really is, what a time to be alive. We keep hearing about the end of the internal combustion engine, and maybe that's true, but while we still have them, people are pushing to the limit and beyond, and that is certainly what they've done with this Corvette ZR1. They've pushed and pushed and pushed on every front, and I can't believe you're going to be able to buy a factory-built Corvette for not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things compared to European rivals, with 1,064 horsepower. It's amazing, and all that chassis tech too. So for me, I want a coupe please, but I'll have it with the ZTK package. I cannot wait to drive it, and I think the venue, Nürburgring. Let's go Nürburgring? Yes, please. Can we please drive it at the Nürburgring?
I agree. I really don't have anything bad to say about it. It looks great. The only thing is the sound. You know, I like a good sounding from a naturally aspirated V8. But since they put turbochargers, it seemed kind of muffled. So I would definitely hope, you know, shops and engineering companies will put out a exhaust that'll help with the sound. Because it seemed like the turbo was drowning out the sound. But overall, it seems like it's going to be a track monster like crazy. I'm talking about competing with GT3 RS, maybe even GT2. But yeah, it's a beautiful car. I like the new features. You'll still be able to tell the difference between the ZR1 and the Z06. Seem like they simmering it down as far as like the handling, but they took it way beyond what a Z06 can produce as far as power. But all in all, I mean, congrats to Chevy, man. They have one hell of engineering department. So you're probably gonna see this in the Le Mans or any other racing series. So yo, comment down below and tell me what you think. And give me a prediction on how much you think dealerships will mark this up for the first year or two. But yeah, so this has been your boy Keon coming through, and I will see y'all in the next one. Peace.